Hello, I'm Brett Summers from the Grappler Show, and I am joined today by Coach Achilles from Achilles Wrestling World. And we are here today to discuss something that's very important to grapplers. We're here to discuss the neck. Wrestling and grappling has been plagued by neck injuries and stuff, from people bad landings to pushing themselves too far on different things and dodgy suplexes and all sorts of things. So today we're here to talk about what could help you help yourself on the mat. Okay, so we are going to look at 3 stages of strengthening your neck. We're going to start with a beginner stage for those who have maybe never done anything before or come back from injury, an intermediate stage, and then an advanced stage for those of you who are really looking to push and really make a difference on your neck. So Achilles, tell us about it. If someone is new to grappling, new to wrestling, and they're coming on the mat for the first time, or they're returning after maybe a long hiatus due to injury or something like that, and they need to start strengthening their neck again, what do we need to do?
As you just mentioned, Brad, yes, if you are new to the sport and you're doing wrestling, jiu-jitsu, MMA, and so on, it's very, very important to have a strong neck. Now, you will be using your head a lot to set up moves and throws to get out of bad positions. If you are a striker as well and getting, hit and punched, by having a strong neck, it's important not to get pretty much knocked out. So you will be using your neck a lot if you decide to take, grappling sports on as a hobby. Now, if you've never done it before, obviously you have to start slow and gradually increase the amount of weight you put behind it as you are getting better. To start with, there are some very easy exercises that you can do by pretty much just doing, bringing your chin to your chest and ear to shoulder and gradually increase the amount of reps you do. Trap exercises, making sure that you are hitting the gym as well, where you do a lot of shoulder exercises. Strength around the neck and the upper body will increase. So that will help a lot as you are starting to be a bit more active on the mat and wrestle or strike and so on. When you feel comfortable with this and your neck doesn't hurt and you feel that your neck is slowly getting stronger and you're a bit more comfortable in certain positions and situations when you wrestle, I think you should move on and start increasing the intensity of your neck training.
Okay, so looking at the beginner stage then, Achilles, we're not needing any special equipment, we're not needing to fork out for anything in particular. This is stuff we can do either on the mat or at home and around the house sort of thing.
You don't really need anything. You could very easily, slowly doing that yourself and in your own time. If you feel that by only, doing chin to chest and ear to shoulder doesn't really do much, you can slowly and gradually increase that by using your hand and just pushing slowly against your hand, creating a bit of resistance, doing the same going forwards, backwards, left, right, and so on. So that will help a lot as well. But again, you need to be careful as you're slowly increasing, the pressure you put on your neck, just to make sure that it doesn't hurt and your neck is fine and ready to take on, the next pretty much step.
Because the worst thing you can do, especially if you're someone who's coming back to competition or coming back to a grappling sport, is if you've been on the shelf for a while, you rush back into the gym, you rush back onto the mat and you want to pick up exactly where you left off, but your body is not where you left off. You need to go back, build it up again. You'll get there again, but it takes time. Do not rush in and do something really heavy on. You could end up causing more damage than good and even maybe push yourself back further than when you were. So step by step by step. Okay, so we have got the beginner bit done. We have been doing our exercises. We're strengthening up our neck. We're ready to move on to the next stage now. What does that involve, Achilles?
So I think if you've been doing this for a few weeks, you very likely build up already some strength in your neck. If you've been hitting the gym regularly and working your shoulders and your upper body, very likely your neck should be in a good position now where you can start loading it up with some weights. Now, if you do have access to a neck harness, you can use that and slowly load your neck with weight. That's one of the best exercises to do if you do have access to that. If you don't, you could do that by using a plate and a towel sitting at the edge of a bench and slowly pretty much working your neck, forwards and backwards, ear to shoulder and so on, which will, with the weight on top of your head, will build up that strength in your neck. Those are probably one of the safest exercises to do. If your neck now it's strong enough and build up to a place where you could load it up with weights, you can start actually leaning against the wall, the same with, putting a towel under your head and slowly kind of having a plank type of motion and slowly increasing the amount of weight you put behind your neck. So that helps a lot. I think if you are at this stage and you're already able to do all this, I'm pretty sure, wrestling and driving with your head and lifting and turning and twisting and, changing angles by using your head, you're pretty much there if you are able to do this by now. So, and you're probably ready to move to the next level.
So when would you know that is then? So if I'm doing this and I'm pushing myself and I'm doing these things, when is that important thing? Think, okay, now is the time I need to make that step up? Because again, like we're saying, we don't want people to rush it and then maybe injure themselves more. When is that moment when you think, okay, is there something we need to be able to do, or is it something we need to be able to sort of achieve? Because again, different people have different types of neck, and I guess everyone will know their own strengths and things. But what would you recommend to be that moment? You go, okay, if you're able to do that now it's time to up the ante.
Yeah, absolutely. If you been around now for a while and you've been training regularly and you slowly increase, the amount of, time you spend on the mat and in the gym and, strengthening your upper body and your neck, you are now probably in a position where you can start actually doing some, what we call kind of proper neck exercises, the old school type of exercise, like, the front bridges, the back bridges, the bridges with a partner, the around the world and so on. I know a lot of people out there will say that these type of exercises, they're very dangerous. They do cause a lot of neck injuries and so on. They do, and that's a fact, especially if you are a heavier guy, you're a heavyweight. If you are in those divisions at the high end of the wrestling roster, yes, you need to be careful just because you have to move a lot of weight on a very small part of your body. If you're like me and you're very light, 60 kilos, 70 kilos, I've been doing these type of exercises for over 30 odd years and my neck is fine. I have no issues whatsoever. But again, I have a very small amount of weight that I need to flip over my head. So it's slightly different. All of us, we are different. Yeah. So those are the best exercises to do. The front bridges, the back bridges, those exercises that will lead you to being able to, drive with your head without the worries of, your neck hurting, bridge with an opponent on top of you and so on. But getting to that level, I think you have to go through all these stages where you slowly and gradually build up to that level. And very likely you're going to get there. You'll get there if you're consistent, you're putting the work in, you'll get there. But as I just said, if you are at the high end of the division, just be careful because yes, you could potentially cause a lot of damage. And there are a lot of examples out there. I've seen online that Mike Tyson has a very bad neck injury that he's pretty much slowly and gradually developed over the years of him doing this type of neck and punches as well. It doesn't help, but I think he was doing tons of bridges on a regular basis. And because of his weight and so on, I think he ended up damaging and having loads of herniated discs in his neck.
I mean, wrestlers, it is one of the bigger injuries. Even pro wrestling, the amount of neck injuries from even like people not to say been landing on their neck or landing wrong on the top of their heads and stuff. And again, the stronger neck has saved them, but there have been cases of like severe paralysis and things like that. But a lot of them have then managed to have operations where they're okay because of the strength of their neck. The classic wrestling story is Danny Hodge, who was who silver medaled in the Olympics in Australia in, I want to say 1930s. You can check that and tell me I'm wrong later on below. And but he was in a car accident. The car went off a bridge. It went under the water. And he was known for his grip strength and his neck strength. And he managed to punch the windscreen out of the car with his hands, then swam to shore. And then he held his neck, which was hurting at the time, and he carried on walking down like a highway. And then eventually got picked up by a trucker and dropped at a hospital. And he walked in holding his neck, and they were like, your neck's broken. And he was like, is it? But because of the strength of his neck and his grip, he managed to do all that on himself. And he pretty much retired after that because of the injury, because it was that bad. But because of the strength he'd managed to develop in his neck and his grip and that, it's become like a folklore tale now. But it really did happen. It sounds like something you see in a movie, but it did happen. But no, it would have been a lot worse if he didn't have that strength there to begin with. And a lot of these other guys, you hear about these injuries and freak accidents where they've landed wrong. But again, that neck strength has protected them to an extent. It would have been a lot worse if it wasn't there.
And myself as a coach, I make sure that, new people coming onto the mat, or, some of my students have been training with us for years, including myself, I do make sure that I do look after my neck in terms of making sure it's in good, wrestling shape all the time. Just because, you may be, tossed around by the head, in a head toss, or you may get, fireman carried or arm spin, and you do end up landing awkwardly or on your head, or so you have someone on top of you and you have to bridge them off. So I always make sure that I have a strong, kind of flexible and pretty much, maintained neck, just because it's an important part of the sport. You have to drive, you double leg someone, you have to use your head to drive them. You have to use it to lift people up. So definitely having a very strong neck, it's a must in all the grappling or combat sports. But yeah, just to summarize, if you are new to the sport and you're a beginner, you do have to start very slow and gradually increase the intensity. You just need to use your pretty much body weight. You don't need to load it with anything else. So forwards and backwards, chin to chest, ear to shoulder, and so on will be enough. You can actually even, use your hand and create some form of resistance in order to kind of, step up a bit the intensity of your training. If you feel comfortable with that, you can move into the next stage, which is adding weight to your neck training, where you could use a disc or a neck harness, or you can start doing some planks against the wall. So that works very well. And then if all this works very well and you're fine with it, you're comfortable, and you've been hitting the gym regularly and you have a strong upper body, shoulders and trap muscles, now you can very likely progress into doing the old school type of neck strengthening exercises, which are the front bridges, the back bridges, around the world, and so on. Those are not for everyone. And then if you do decide that you're going to start doing them, you just need to be careful, listen to your body. If your neck starts hurting, if you start having any tingling or numbness or anything like that, you have to stop and, go and see a doctor. You just don't push your body past that point, because you may end up with really bad, slip discs in your neck and so on. But I think that's pretty much it. It's quite easy to train your neck. It's a very small part of your body, but we do use it a lot. So do please pay attention and make sure you look after it and you train it regularly, because it is important. So yeah, look after your neck.
Definitely. And just remember as well, again, the neck is just the one part of the body. Think about the rest of it. You need to be working on your shoulders. You need your back. You need to get that strength in your spine, maybe with your cat exercises and your press ups and that, because it all supports the neck. It's all part of the puzzle. Having a strong neck is great, but if the rest of you there's nothing there, that'll probably cause a lot more damage than good, because you'll be supporting that. So it all goes together. You need to be doing everything. Don't skip neck day, don't skip leg day, all that sort of thing. It all joins together, and it will. If you can do that and keep your neck strong, you're going to have a long career on the mats and off it.
You're right, bro. And we may cover in another video, at another point, we may cover some of the other exercises that you should focus on, because having a good, developed and strong body, and flexible as well, it's a must. It's a must in combat sports. Wrestling, jiu-jitsu, MMA, you have to have a strong athletic body. I know in jiu-jitsu, they say that the gentle art, some frail people, use their, technique and leverage and things like that against, bigger and stronger opponents. Best grappler in the world, Gordon Ryan, is the size of a house. So you do need a strong, developed body. And At the highest level, most of those jiu-jitsu guys, they're all very athletic. Most of them, they train like wrestlers do, or like professional boxers, like professional MMA fighters, and so on. So, yeah, look after your body. The stronger you are, better developed your body is, the better you're going to do on the mat.